go. Thank you. Well, we probably have some competition today because there's another class going on. Did you get...
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's 11. I don't want to make people who are on time wait, so I think we'll start. The amazing thing is that there is such a concept of a healthy brain. I mean, it's something that, I never thought of when I was young. But how to have a healthy brain and how important it is. And I'll give you some examples of that in just a bit. But having a healthy brain is the key to having a full, enjoyable life. I've heard so often, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. But I don't believe that anymore. I think it's something else. If you don't have your mind, you don't have anything. Because you can be in excellent health and have Alzheimer's disease, and it just doesn't matter. So looking at what we can do at any age to improve our brain and to maintain the brain that we have. And I'm not a brainologist, but I just 2 weeks ago talked to a brainologist. It's a neurologist that specializes in brains, and I'll share with you some of the things that he said. Well, the first question up is, can you inherit Alzheimer's? And anyone who has a parent who has Alzheimer's must think of this, because it is true that if you have Alzheimer's in your family, you have a higher chance of getting it. But what is the chance? Well, the fact is that in America, as it varies by country, but in America, it just happens that only 27% of Alzheimer's patients have someone else in their family with it. So that means you have only one chance out of 4 of getting it. And yeah, those are still hefty odds, but yet when you think that, 1 out of 4, that's sure better than 4 out of 5. If you have Parkinson's disease, you're much, much worse off, because in Parkinson's, people, 4 out of 5 people in Parkinson's get dementia. So if your one parent has Parkinson's, you should worry about that more than dementia. Although Parkinson's is a much longer disease than most dementias are. Now, there are people with genetic markers, certain genes that they carry that tend to make them candidates for dementia, particularly Alzheimer's disease. And you can be tested for that now. It's not an expensive test. But your doctor probably will advise against it, just because what are you going to do with that information? I mean, for some people, it would drive them nuts. They wouldn't be able to stand it. They would just become so anxious over it. So most people don't get tested, but if there's somebody who really wants to, you can be tested to see if you have those genetic markers. There are 15 things that you can do to lessen your chances of having dementia. 15 different things that you can do that will help support a healthy brain. And the one thing I've learned from my study of dementia in these last years is whatever is good for the heart is good for the brain. So that means eating right, that's good for the brain. And number 2, exercise, that is really good for the brain. In fact, that's probably the biggest contributing factor to brain health than anything is exercise. And you can actually start exercising at any age, even if you haven't exercised for 50 years. Anything that you do is going to help your brain. So what can you do? Well, most of us can walk, although I can only walk a half a mile because of my spinal stenosis. But even if you're in a wheelchair, Google it. Google wheelchair exercises, and you wouldn't believe the exercises they have for people in wheelchairs. Everybody can exercise, even if you're in a wheelchair. And that is going to not only help your heart, but it's going to help your brain. And I recently had that shown to me when this neurologist showed me slides from an MRI of a person's brain, of different people's brains, and looking at them and seeing how many imperfections there are. And he would point to this, and that was a little bleed, and this was a trauma, and all these like bumps in there and little specks that aren't good. So the first thing we have to realize that there's no cure for Alzheimer's. There is no magic pill. We saw that last time. But here are 15 things that you can do, and these are listed by the American Alzheimer's Association and the CDC as contributing to a healthy brain. The healthier your brain, the better your chances of not having Alzheimer's disease or any kind of dementia. And trying to figure out how to have a healthy brain, just remember that principle, that what is good for the heart is good for the brain. Education, number 85. Education is your friend. Multiple studies, not just one, but multiple studies have shown that education is a factor in staving off dementia and cognitive impairment. That means the more that you can use your mind, the stronger it becomes. And the problem with us when we get older is it's easy for us to stop using our minds. Especially, with television. Think of your grandparents. In the evening, they couldn't watch television. It wasn't an option. It wasn't there. There were a lot more board games that they played, card games, reading books, things that we don't do so much anymore because of the electronic entertainment opportunities that we have in our homes. But those things that we did 50 years ago or 70 years ago, those were things that helped maintain an active brain. So maybe that is a contributing factor to why the incidence of Alzheimer's disease keeps climbing. And what we're going to see in 2 months is we're going to look at the statistics of Alzheimer's disease just in California. And it is frightening, absolutely frightening. And unless a cure is found soon, in 70 years, every other person over 65 is going to have dementia. And society will not be able to support that. We can't support that. So then we're going to have medically supervised mercy killings to take those people from the population. Nobody's talking about this. It's like it's swept under the rug. We're on a crash. We're like on a train out of control, ready to crash with Alzheimer's disease. And what's the chance of a cure? Well, Dr. Alzheimer, started working on a cure back in the 1890s. he spent his whole life. He organized around him a group of other physicians, because those were the only ones who did this kind of thing then, who were doing research on Alzheimer's, and they couldn't figure it out either. And after that generation passed away, other researchers have come and gone, and we still don't have a cure for Alzheimer's disease. So it truly is a frightening thing. Well, what can you do to exercise your brain? Well, a couple of years ago, we went over some of the brain games that are easily accessible. Just Google brain games, and they'll come up. There's a whole bunch of them. And there's one, I forget the name of it, we talked about a lot, and I tried it, and it really makes you tired in your brain, so I know it works. But they don't have the statistics to prove that it works. But it's got to work because you're using the brain in ways that you never would otherwise. So there are brain games, there are options. Playing chess in the evening is an excellent brain thing, or any kind of thing where you have to use your mind. In addition to that, many of the most famous universities in the United States, like Harvard, Stanford, offer external courses for anybody. And I believe at Harvard they're free. And these courses usually consist, well, they started out, of course, before the internet, they started out by using tape recordings, but now it's on video, and you can watch them. You can watch the lectures at home, and they'll send you the materials. And you can take courses in hundreds of things. And of course, some are way too complicated for, me, but there are a lot of them that are just really helpful and fascinating. And you can find all that online. It's so amazing the power we have with the computer. We curse it sometimes because it drives us nuts, but it sure can do some marvelous things for us if we just master how to do that. I mean, I just spent, this last week, I spent 4 days applying for a visa to Australia, and 4 days typing over and over, entering over and over, and it would always reject my picture and say, the picture you submitted is not the picture on your passport, which of course is ludicrous. And finally, after 38 hours of attempting, it went through. And it's all a computer problem. So the computer has some good features. Number 86, use your mind, take an art class. Of course, studying a foreign language is really good, but that's hard to achieve. So I went to Valley College and took Spanish 101 for a semester, but it was, you couldn't just audit the course. You had to, be graded and do the exams, and it was too much pressure. I didn't like it, so I didn't continue with it. Luminosity, that's the brain game that we talked about a couple of years ago. And I personally tried Luminosity. It was like $35 for a year's subscription. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. You could use as much as you want. You could join a book club where you're able to discuss a book in a group setting. Redlands has lots of cultural activities like that. Studying a new language, of course, I've mentioned. And then number 87 is the kingpin of it all, and that's exercise. I couldn't tell you how important exercise is. It trumps everything. And you need to do it often. Like, I would say 6 days a week. Until recently, I've been exercising 7 days a week. And it's a time commitment, but it's just unbelievable what it does for you in every body system. And the human body was made to be active. And one of the biggest problems we have in our era is everything is designed to make us inactive. If you go to Europe, you don't see people driving everywhere. People take the tram. And if you take the tram, you have to walk to get to the tram. And then you walk from the tram to go shopping. And they're a lot healthier because of that. Well, the exercise enhances and strengthens every system of the body. An exercise program can be tailored to every person. So I went to see the neurologist because I had a brain scan because I was having some abnormal things with my eyes, seeing things that was very upsetting. And I didn't know if I was going to, like lose my vision. I would see cells would lighten up and go like black and white, and in both eyes. And so I went to first to ophthalmology. I had 2 workups in ophthalmology. Eyes were fine. It's got to be in the brain. So the next was an MRI of the brain, which was not fun. But anyway, then I met with the urologist. The brain doctor afterwards. And so he showed me first pictures of other people's brains. Then he showed me a picture of my brain. And the difference was amazing. My brain was absolutely clear in every slice. There were no bleeds, bumps, dark spots, scratches. There were no injuries. It was just clear. And he said to me, and I hate to brag, but this is what he said. He said, in my whole practice, you have the cleanest brain of any patient I've ever had. That was the good news. So that really was good news. Exercise pays off. So then he questioned me for half an hour about my lifestyle, how much I exercise, how many minutes a day, what did I eat, and he was writing all this down. And then at the end of that, he tells me the bad news, and that is that I have Parkinson's disease. Now, Parkinson's means that I now have a 4 out of 5 chance of getting dementia, and that is always Alzheimer's disease. Well, there's nothing, of course, I can do about that. The advice they give to every Parkinson's patient is exercise. And so I'm already doing that. He said, just keep exercising and you'll slow the course of the disease down. I've had it now, he figured out, for 8 years. And it's very slow in its progression because of my exercise. So it's not impacting the quality of my life right now, and it isn't impacting my brain yet, although sometimes I wonder because somehow when I got up this morning, I thought it was October. That's not a good sign. But anyway, I got straightened out eventually. So you have to protect your head against injury because head injuries affect the brain, and older people need to be sure not to fall. The greatest threat to you, if you're over 65, is falling. That's the greatest threat to your health. Because if you look at the statistics, it's the fall that starts it all. My roommate in college, he's my age, 85. I just got a note from his wife yesterday, and he's on hospice now and only has a few months to live. And it started 4 months ago with a fall, and he broke his hip, and he had the surgery, and he's just going down. He's not recovering. So you've got to avoid falling. So that means at a certain age, if you feel unsteady in the least in walking, get a cane. Or if you have to, get a walker. And I know for men, I know it's our pride. We don't want to be seen having to use a cane or a walker. But if that's what it takes to keep you from falling, then that's what you've got to do. because the falling is something that just many people never recover from the fall. And then number 89, live a smoke-free life. Well, that's a little hard if you were raised in a family like I was, where my mom and dad smoked like chimneys, like 4 packs a day, and the house was filled with smoke, and that's what we breathed. And that's where I learned to hate smoking. And so when I grew up in high school, my friends would try to get me to smoke, and I'd tell them, forget it, I'm not that dumb. I couldn't stand the smell of it. And so I never smoked. Well, that's been a great benefit to me. In fact, I can guarantee you that I wouldn't be alive if I had been a smoker like my father. You don't live to be 85 if you're smoking 4 packs a day. And of course, smoking is expensive and other things too, but it's so bad for your health. So if you're smoking, think about trying to quit. There are ways, they're not just classes, there are medicines that help you now. So you don't have to do it on your own. Although my mother did on her own. She put the cigarette pack in her purse, and she said, as long as I have that cigarette pack with me, I won't smoke. And she quit smoking when she was 52 and lived to be 88. And it is possible, although nicotine is so addictive. My nephew went to Yale and did his PhD in pharmacology, and he studied brain addiction in rats of nicotine, and I don't remember what the other one was, but it might have been cocaine, but it's something that is so addictive nobody can quit. And nicotine was a worse addiction. Yeah. So if you can't quit, no wonder. It's not possible unless you have some help. Number 9, take measures to control high blood pressure. High blood pressure is another silent killer because we feel fine. But what high blood pressure does is it wears out the heart. So I had a patient in hospice. I went to see him the first time. He was 64 years old in Yucca Valley, and he was a pastor until he got so sick he couldn't do that anymore. And it's all because of the fact that he never treated his high blood pressure. He just ignored it because he said he felt so good, he just didn't like to go to doctors, or he just ignored it, thought it would go away. Well, it killed him. At the time that I saw him, his heart ejection fraction, that's the amount of blood that the heart pumps in one pump, was 20%. That's almost dead. When you get to be 15, you expire. And he only lived a few months on hospice and he died. So take blood pressure seriously. I mean, I know a man right now who isn't doing that. And I keep preaching to him that he's only like, in his 50s. Healthy eating and exercise may not be enough to control blood pressure, but there are so many medications. And if one is bothering you, you take something and you find that, like my mother had a hard time with it because something was bothering her, or this was bothering her. There's so many, you just try another medicine. So number 91, another thing to watch out for that also affects the brain is type 2 diabetes. Now, type 2 diabetes is another silent killer. You can have it and not feel bad until near the end, but it can do terrible things to your body. My mother died at 88, and her doctor, I questioned her doctor about her death, and he said, well, what you could say really killed her was her type 2 diabetes. Now, she did treat it, but she didn't take it real seriously. Like if she saw a big piece of cake, she'd eat it and laugh about it. And, 88's a pretty good age to live to, but she could have had a good quality of life in maybe another, 7 to 8 years. It's possible. Type 2 diabetes is something that can be helped with good nutrition and exercise, but sometimes it's not enough. Now, I was lucky. I was diagnosed in my 60s with type 2 diabetes, and then I started swimming when I was 70 and competing when I was 72, and in 10 years, I got rid of the diabetes. And my blood sugar dropped way down to normal range. And it's strictly because of the exercise and the good diet. If you exercise, you want to eat right. Those two go hand in hand. If you exercise, you're not about to go and have 6 chocolate chip cookies, because you'll know better than to do that. Number 92, eat healthy. If you eat for a good heart health, you're also eating for good brain health. You want to be high in vegetables, especially leafy greens. Eat leaner cuts of red meats in smaller portions. I actually have cut out all red meat, and I just eat chicken, particularly chicken breast. I like the lighter cuts of chicken. And I eat tuna and some fish, so that you don't have to have red meat. Red meat is very dense and it's hard on your body. It's hard for the body to deal with it. Choose grilled over fried, and don't eat anything that's deep fat fried, including donuts. Now, when I was a young man going to a church here, just up the street, there was a friend of mine, his name was Bernie, and he was a good 25 years older than me. And every morning, Bernie went down to the donut shop that used to be down there, kind of a block from the YMCA. It's gone now. And he would get his donuts every morning. Well, he eventually died, of course. And I thought I love donuts. I used to go down there. That's how I knew he was there. I'd go down there and see him. Whenever I went, he was there. I didn't go every day, though. And so I read then an article in the Reader's Digest, because we didn't have the internet, on how to cure yourself of eating donuts. And here were the instructions. Go to the donut shop and buy your favorite donut. And then take it home and put it in your microwave. And microwaves were just coming in then. It was like probably the late 60s. And put it in the microwave and put it on high for 5 minutes. And then look at it. I never ate another donut. I mean, it's so disgusting to see that thing. It's just, it'll cure you from eating donuts. So you want to eat food that is less processed, lower in fat. And it's so wonderful now that when you eat out, even if you go to McDonald's, they have the calories listed on the menu. And let those calories guide you. I mean, do you really want to spend 800 to 1,100 calories on a sandwich when you could buy another sandwich down here for maybe 500 calories? When you think about that, I mean, we eat a lot of TV dinners because my wife doesn't cook, and I'm not much of a cook. But I can buy TV dinners, and of course it's easy to look at those and see the calories. And there's one I really like that's only 170 calories. Now, there are many other dinners that, like my wife had one last night, it was 450 calories. But I'm trying to keep her weight up, so I'm not trying to cut back on that because she isn't eating real well. So it turns out that you can control your calorie intake so easily today. I mean, back when I was a teenager, you had to carry a little book that listed the calories. And you looked up berries or donuts or whatever. And that's how you found out what the calories were. And you don't have to do that anymore. Everything's packaged, it's got the calories on it. Here's a principle that's important. Most weight gain comes from what you eat between and after meals. That's where we gain our weight. So if you don't do that, you'll be way ahead. Nuts are really a great healthy food, but they're highly caloric, and that could be a problem. And if you want to cook with oil, choose olive oil. It's so much better than any other kind of oil. And if you go to Greece, everything is cooked with olive oil. And I had a whole summer in Greece in 1980 studying, and it was hard to take all that oil in the cooking. It was just hard to get used to. Number 93, maintain a healthy weight. It's been my lifelong goal. It applies to all of us. There are so many diseases that are aided and abetted by being overweight. Cancer, for one. And number 94 is improve your sleeping. And, you know, the older you get, the more difficult it is to have a good night's sleep. It's just really hard. And now, because of my arthritis, I'm unable to sleep lying down. I have to sleep sitting up. And that's dodgy. You sleep a couple hours and you wake up, and sleep another hour and wake up. And so I'm yawning during the day and taking a nap because I'm not getting enough rest at night. But there's steps you can take to help with your sleeping, like go to bed at the same time every night. Don't start thinking about some big problems just before you go to bed. Prepare yourself for sleep by taking the last 20 minutes to turn the TV off and quietly read or listen to some quiet music that relaxes you, or use breathing exercises or prayer, read the scripture, meditation, yoga. Try half a cup of chamomile tea. You could try melatonin, which is an over-the-counter hormone, and that helps a lot of people to go to sleep. But it does have one side effect, and that is suicidal ideation. And that's not a good thing. So if you feel that, stop taking it right away. And that happened to me. That's why I don't take it. I tried taking it, and I started thinking about killing myself. And I thought, uh-oh, something's wrong here. So I stopped taking it. And then make sure you don't have sleep apnea. Usually your partner can tell you if you have that. And like my sister has it, her husband has it. I have a daughter-in-law who has it. I mean, it's very common. And managing stress. Well, stress really can affect cognitive function. And somehow we need to learn to take measures to control the stress in our lives rather than having the stress controlling us. And if you can ever figure out how to, if you're a working person, how to leave the problems of work at work and go home without them, that's wonderful. But that's a hard thing to do, I know. Because I remember the days when I worked. Depression. Stress eventually leads to depression. It can really impact cognitive processes and health in general. And it's true that some people have a tendency toward depression, but anyone can get depressed. And I'm not a depressive person, but following my 8 weeks of daily radiation for prostate cancer, they warned me ahead of time I would be depressed, and I was so depressed. I never felt like that in my life, where everything was just black. I didn't want to get out of bed. So they gave me medicine for it, and in 3 months it was back to normal. I was fine. Only time in my life I've ever been depressed. Anybody can get depression, and you've got to take steps to deal with it, not just ignore it. Number 98, alcohol should be reduced. There's not a lot of good things to say about alcohol. There are some studies showing a little bit of wine every day is good for your stomach, but overall it can cause cognitive impairment. And for brain health, very little alcohol should be consumed. I know it's not a problem for most people, but for some people, it really is. And I come from a family of alcoholics, and that's why I don't drink. People, when I tell them I don't drink, they say, oh, it's because of your religion. I say, no. No, it's because I come from a family of alcoholics, and I know what alcohol can do. I've seen it. It can shorten lives. It can make your life miserable. And my brother, when he was 50, spent 3 months in the hospital because he turned yellow. He drank every day. He was never a roaring drunk, but he drank every day. If you drink every day, you're an alcoholic. The doctor said to him, one more drink, John, and you're a dead man. He never took the next drink, and he lived to be 75. So I'm opposed to alcohol, although I would support your right to drink it. Being a true Congregationalist, I do support the right of people to be able to drink. And when I'm in Connecticut, where they have blue laws, you can't sell alcohol on Sunday, that riles me up. I would never buy alcohol on any day, but I don't like it when the government tells me there's something I can't buy on Sunday. I just don't like it. Number 99, consider vitamins and nutritional supplements. Get with a nutritionist. That's really important. And you can find a nutritionist. Many health stores have a nutritionist give you a free consult and suggest what you should take, depending on where you are in your health journey and your age. So, for example, vitamin D is something that's really important to your health. And those are levels that they now measure. I took Barbara yesterday to her doctor, or Friday, for a regular checkup. And she came out so good, except her vitamin D level was a little low, so we're going to raise that. She is so healthy. It's amazing. She's 83 and just so healthy. She's healthier than I am. So then, like resveratrol is concentrated from wine. It's something that's not known a lot, but look up resveratrol, Google it, and it's really good. And it's good for the heart, and if it's good for the heart, it's good for the brain. Okay, so what questions do you have? I have microphones here.
You could take Spanish at the community center. You can go there and take a class.
Say it again so the people can hear it on TV.
You can take Spanish at the community center.
Oh, you can take Spanish at the community center.
I just completed an 8-week conversational Spanish
Here,
class.
wait.
I just completed an 8-week conversational Spanish class
Did
at
you
the
really?
senior center, and they're starting it again in October.
Oh, I should go down there and do
It
that.
was really good. The teacher is a college student. She's a young lady, but she speaks Spanish fluently, of course. It's a good class.
Yeah,
We started with 30, and when the class was over, there was only 17 left. So a lot of people dropped out because they couldn't do it.
yeah, I know. Learning a language is a lot of work, and I became fluent in German because I went to Germany and to the Goethe Institute, and I had 8 weeks of intense language instruction, all in German, and I came out 8 weeks later completely fluent. But it strains your brain. I mean, it's a lot of brain work. That's why you want to take a language, because it's so much brain work. That's exactly what you need, because you want to be working on that before dementia symptoms begin. You don't want to wait, because then it's too late. And you know, even if you have the markers for Alzheimer's, if you are proactive and take steps against it, you can push that off. You can push it forward. So instead of getting symptoms now, maybe you'll get them in 5 years from now. So it's really worthwhile, and you know, because Alzheimer's is so prolific, anybody can get it. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah. You mentioned the genetic markers. If you've got these genetic markers, what are the probabilities involved with that?
I don't know. I don't know. That's something that you'd have to ask a doctor of. I haven't run on to that, but I'm sure I could get it if I Googled it. I'm sure I could get it. The amazing thing about your computer is you can Google anything, and it really works. Anything else you'd like to say? Next month, we are looking at it's information for caregivers, practical things for caregivers. And also, I want to alert you that we have a caregiver group, support group, that meets the second Monday at 2 o'clock on our campus every month. And it's run by a hospice social worker, and it's excellent. And there's a small group of 6 or 8. I went one time to see how it was, and she's excellent. So that's really good support. Well, thank you, and we'll see you next month.